Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2022 Toyota 4Runner, we're going to be checking out the Swagman XC2 platform style bike rack. So first impressions of the rack on the back of the Toyota. I don't think it looks too bad. Not great though either, but I mean, it's simple, right? And it has a main purpose, and that's to get a couple of bikes to and from the trails. And honestly, that's kind of the purpose of the rack. You know, this is going to be something that's good for those of you that maybe just go riding every now and again when the weather's nice, stuff like that. For those of you that are out all the time, riding, you know, every other day or whatever, you know, there's a lot more options that are more suited for that. For example, like a Kuat bike rack is really well made. So, you know, if you're just kind of getting started or you know, just the occasional rider, definitely nothing wrong with this one. The way it works is super easy and simple. All it's going to do is apply pressure here to your frame. So it's going to have that downward pressure, and it's going to force the wheels into the cradles. And believe it or not, I mean, it does a good job. So I mean, the rack's moving, which you're going to get that with any rack, but the bike is staying with it. You know, the bike isn't moving on its own. With that said though, if you do happen to have a bike that has a carbon frame, you don't want to use this because you don't obviously want to put all that pressure on the frame. A lot of you probably don't have that, but you know, it's worth mentioning for sure. With all that said though, you know, why don't we go ahead and get the bike off and take a better look at the rack. So these arms, I guess you could call them, what these are going to do is you push in on them and lift them up. And you know, there's a lot of different ways some people like to do it. Some people just work around it here. Some people actually like to take these off to give you more room. Some people like to fold this down, which we'll get to later. Choice is kind of yours, whichever is the most convenient for you. But we'll go ahead and just work this out and set it off to the side. Something that you do need to think about whenever you have the rack on the back of your Toyota is the fact that it is going to extend the overall length, not by much, but you know, take it into consideration when you're pulling into a tight spot or maybe a small garage. And to find out exactly how much length it's going to add back here, we'll just measure from the hatch to the furthest point of the rack, which looks like it's going to be here, and that's going to be right at 26 inches. So should be in pretty good shape, honestly. One of the big questions that we do get asked is if you're going to be able to get into the back of your Toyota with the rack on, and you're going to be able to as long as you don't have any bikes on it. All right, because this centerpiece actually does fold down. There will be a pin you can pull out, move that out of the way, and that's going to give you some space here to where, you know, you can get in a little bit. There will be enough room here that the average person, I'd say, could probably sneak in behind here and get close. That way you don't have to lean all the way over. But I'll go ahead and close up our hatch here, and there's a pretty neat way you can store this actually. It's called the suitcase type, and it makes sense once you see it. So I'll put this back up. These side pieces have pins in them too, so you can swing them up. Can manage to get it in here. See? I think I know what this is. I think my hooks might be in the way there. Yep. This one swings up, and that makes it pretty compact. You know, you can definitely drive around town with it like this if you want to, but honestly, I think this is more for storage purposes. Whenever you're not using the rack, I mean, it's pretty small, and so you're going to be able to put it up in a shelf or on a shelf in the garage or in the basement, even in a closet, and keep it out of the way for whenever you're not using it. So moving down here, the rack is going to work with those 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube openings like we have here today on our 4Runner, and it also has the ability to work with the smaller 1.25 by 1.25 trailer hitches. So if you happen to have another vehicle in the household, maybe something more compact like a Camry or Corolla, something like that with the smaller hitch, chances are pretty good the rack will still work with it. It is going to come included with an anti-rattle bolt, which is this here. What that's going to do is eliminate any slop or play in the connection point. So to kind of give you an example of that, let's say if we're going down the road hitting some bumps, this part is going to remain solid. These pieces here, if you have them like this, no bikes on it, are obviously going to move around a little bit, but you're not going to be able to hear that from the inside. What this is doing is eliminating that clunking that you would hear from it and actually bouncing around on the hitch. So with the rattle bolt there, it's something you're not going to have to worry about. But other than that, at the end of the day, you know, a really simple rack and is going to get the job done whenever you're wanting to load up a couple of bikes on the back of your 4Runner and go hit the trails. Now, if you're anything like me, you always want to see the product you're interested in actually working or in action. So why don't we go ahead, load up a couple of bikes, take this out on the test course and see how it does. This is our test course. Let's start with the slalom. This shows side-to-side action, such as turning corners or evasive maneuvering. Then onto our alternating speed bumps. This shows twisting action, such as hitting curbs, potholes, road debris, or even uneven pavement. Last of all, the solid speed bumps. This shows up and down action, such as driving through a parking lot or parking garage, or driving in and out of a driveway. And that'll finish up our look at of the Swagman XC2 platform style bike rack on our 2022 Toyota 4Runner.